Hello YouTube, my name is Isabella and today we're finally going to be discussing my favorite books of the year. Don't know how every year I manage to be so late doing these, but here we are again. This is late again. I'm hoping to get it up before February, so we'll see if that happens. Today I'm going to talk to you about, I think, 13 books total and rank my favorites. We're first going to start off with a couple non-SFF books that I gave 5 stars or deeply loved that are not science fiction, fantasy, or speculative, and then we'll go on into the ranking for my speculative picks. The one thing that's kind of sucky this year is I did read the most I've ever read, but I didn't find as many favorites as what I normally do. Even a lot of these books that got 5 stars, like in the lower half, I wouldn't consider like all-time favorites. There are definitely favorites of the year and books I love, but there have been other years where I've found some, like a lot of like all-time favorites. So that's a little disappointing. Hopefully this year is a little bit better. And let's just jump into the shout out portion. The first book I want to shout out quickly is Firekeepers Daughter by Angeline Boulley. This is a fantastic book. I'm not going to tell you what all these books are about because we'd be here for forever. This is a young adult contemporary mystery and it's fantastic. Super out of my wheelhouse, not something I would ever typically read, but it's so special. I love the main character so much and how she handles all of what happens to her. I love her. She is an incredibly strong, dynamic main character and wonderful to read from. I thought the plot was really interesting. I love the balance between mystery and just regular like contemporaries. I think the perfect blend worked perfectly for me because I'm not much of a mystery reader at all. I really liked the writing and I really appreciated how the story wrapped up and ended. This is a brilliant book. I love it. Even if you don't like young adult mysteries or mysteries in general, I still think this is a book worth checking out for the coming of age elements. I think this is a fantastic story. Keeping in line with young adult contemporary, I don't think this is a book that's very well known, but it is incredibly special, and that's You Bring the Distant Ear by Maitali Perkins. I think I'll tell you what this one is about because it's just not a well-known title, but it follows a family who goes from Bangladesh to London, from London to New York. And it's a multi-generational tale, and it's young adult contemporary. You follow the girls as children and then their moms to girls, and then it's just so beautiful. It's fantastically, phenomenally written. I love the writing in here so much. I love all the themes explored and all the growth that the characters experience. This is a very special book. I'm pretty sure I shed a tear or two at the end because I just thought the ending was so beautiful and the way this wraps up is so gorgeous. If you like multi-generational like literary fiction and like if you typically stick to adult, I think this is one that you definitely should make the exception for. Into young adult, this is a brilliantly written book in such a short span of time. I love it. It's beautiful. 5 stars. Gorgeous. The other one I want to shout out is nonfiction, and that's Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is an incredibly impactful and thought-provoking and just meaningful story. It's deeply upsetting. It took me forever to get through because the subject matter is very difficult, but Chanel Miller is a fantastic writer, and I think her bravery has done a lot and been incredibly influential. She is a powerhouse. Okay, now on to the ranked SFF. I say SFF, I'm pretty sure they're all fantasy with a couple speculative books. I don't think there's one sci-fi on here, or one at least like straight sci-fi. So I think I'm going to work on that for 2022. Coming in at number 10, I'm so upset I don't own this. I own literally every other book on this list, and it's something I need to change, but that's Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This one was not a full 5 star, but I definitely loved it. It's definitely impactful, influential. This is a weird book. It is not going to work for a lot of people. I think it's technically classed as horror or in that speculative weird bit, but it's really freaking great. I love the elements and vibes of this. It's very creepy and it's very unsettling, very creepy. It gets super weird and I loved it. I love the way Rivers Solomon writes. Their writing, I think, is fantastic. These characters were super interesting and unique and very complex. I just ate up everything to do with the atmosphere, the tone, the vibes of the story. It's deeply unsettling. The writing lends so well to this type of story. This is a sapphic book, and it's very niche, it's very weird and gross, but I loved it. Book number 8 on this list is Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. I loved this book. Did I love the 4th book? Not as much. No, that's disappointing, but I loved this book. I think so much of this book is done so well. This is the 3rd book in the Witchlands series. Payoff in this book, because it's 3rd in the series, 4th if you include the prequel novella. There's just so much payoff in here and character moments that are just so fantastic and work so well that I ate it up. I loved it. I really appreciated that the plot felt like it was going somewhere. Initial arcs for the plot, for the characters, were ended and like wrapped up well, with a lot of new mysteries and things to come that were very exciting. I loved the main romance that's focused on here and how it's like finally acknowledged. It focuses on a character I love, and I love his journey and where everything goes with him. This is book 3 in the series. It's hard to talk about, but I'm hoping that the finale does me well. I'm hoping I really love it, but because this installment truly was great, really enjoyed it. Check out my review, because I don't actually remember a lot about it because I had a traumatic event happen right after it. So anyway, we're going to ignore the fact that this next book is a little beat up. This is what happens when you stack books horizontally and put a paperback right beside it. It gets a little beat up. That's The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I just love Madeline Miller's writing style. I have read Circe and I do like Circe more. This book is also excellent. I just love the way that she spins and does Greek myths. These are fully Greek myth retellings, and like, you know, the beats of the story, or especially this one. I was very familiar with the story, but I still love the way she decided to write Achilles and Patroclus' story. I just love the way that the narrative is constructed. I really loved how Patroclus essentially is like the main character telling the story throughout most of it, and Patroclus is just like a sweet bean in whom I love. I love him so much. This is a very brutal and tragic tale, but it doesn't feel exploitative, which is nice, and I was mildly concerned about because of the way people talk about it. Like, it's the most tragic thing I've ever read, but I think it's handled and done very well, and I appreciate that there's the teeniest, tiniest, little, teeny, itty-bitty sliver of hope or not absolute misery at the end. That just makes this book not a miserable suckfest that I probably couldn't get through or wouldn't have liked as much. That element really brought it up, I guess, in my opinion. I love her writing. 5 stars. Can't wait for her next book, which I think she teased. Was it a Medusa book? Am I wrong? I think I'm talking about the wrong. I don't remember, but Madeline Miller definitely teased her next protagonist, which is exciting. For someone who doesn't read a lot of horror, it's funny that I have 2 horror books or horror adjacent speculative books on here. I just find that interesting. The next book I have to talk about, though, is Ring Shout by Peter Jelly Clark. Oh my god. I think this is one of the best, if not the best, novella I've ever read. It's phenomenal. This is incredibly vibrant, well described. I think Peter Jelly Clark is a phenomenal writer because of how well he established the world, the characters, what's going on, general just air of the story, the tone, everything in this short amount of time, I think is masterful. I can't get over how well I could picture what was going on. The characters here are so vivid and leap off the page, which is just so impressive in such a short tale. The horror elements are so cool, like so well developed and absolutely disgusting and terrifying and upsetting. You get such a clear picture in such a short window of time that I'm so impressed. I would read multiple installments in this world about these characters. I would love to return to this setting and time and learn more about the way this world works, but this is a brilliantly done novella. It's honestly, can I say perfect? I think it's perfect. In the future, I definitely need to attempt weird speculative horror stuff like this in Sorrowland more, because I just love it. The gross, the creepy, the macabre, everything. I love it. This was genuinely unsettling. Some of the descriptions and depictions made me feel like queasy and nauseous, which is just so impressive. 5 stars. Now on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, an absolute joy and delight and surprise to me was Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is a middle grade story that I read on a whim because other people were just raving about it, and I was shocked to love it too. I love the whimsical, fun nature of this story mixed in with some very hard-hitting topics, and our main character Amari deals with a lot. She is up against a lot, and the way she like soldiers through and her strength is just such a wonderful thing to witness. I love this main character so much. I absolutely loved the emphasis on family in here, and Amari's relationship with her brother was so sweet, and I was genuinely shocked by the ending of the story. Call me stupid, I'm usually good at like picking up when things are going to happen. I was shocked. Plot twist. So I can't wait to see the future of Amari's story. The world building also was so unique and inventive and creative. I loved how whimsical and fun it was, but it also like elevates the story, doesn't bog down with all the stuff we learn about it, which is a very impressive feat. This world is just so fascinating and cool, and I just would take like almost endless installments in this world and series and from Amari because it's just so cool. I loved this book. I don't think I've ever had a middle grade on a favorites list, which so like this just is so special. I love it. Initially I felt weird putting this so high on this list at number 4 because I didn't actually technically give it a full 5 stars, but in my heart it's a 5 star, even though I do have the one genuine complaint. Anyway, I'm not justifying my own list, but that's The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. I loved this. It's Tasha Suri's first take on like epic scale fantasy. It's the first in a trilogy. Absolutely cannot get over how talented of a writer Tasha Suri is. Her depictions of her world are fantastic. I am not a visual reader. Like I can't actually see anything when I read, but the way she describes things that now, like 8 months after I've read this book, I still have ideas of what things are like and the descriptions. It has such a lasting effect that I just can't get over how well written this is, how fantastic her prose is. I absolutely love the world and the setting. It's great. Our 2 main characters I'm obsessed with, and I also just love all of the characters because there's multiple perspectives in here, but I love the people that Tasha Suri decides to focus on in such a patriarchal society, who she chooses to write from. I think it's just so smart and displays her themes so well. I was also super intrigued by the magic. I thought that it was so interesting, and how the magic was a super cool focal point, but I don't think I want to say why, but magic was super cool, and the way it interacts with other elements of the story I just loved. The one complaint why this isn't a full like absolute 5 star, but I think also could change upon reread, is I think the pacing is slightly off. I love this book. I cannot wait for the sequel. Tasha Suri truly is a gem, and more people need to read her stuff. Book number 3 on this list was such a surprise. I took it out from my library on a whim because House Salt was reading it for January, and here we are a full calendar year later, and it's number 3 on this list. Yeah, it's wild to me, and I loved it so much I immediately purchased it. It's fantastic, and that is Legend Born by Tracy Deal. I think it takes some classic YA elements and like remixes them or makes them very special. It makes them work so well in this very specific story. I love Bree as a main character. Her struggle is so difficult to watch, but just the way she operates, I love her. She's a fantastic, super dynamic and interesting main character. I super loved the paranormal urban fantasy vibes of like the early 2010s, but very much is a like modern YA fantasy tale. The Arthurian legend stuff I think worked really well with this story. Like I was very pleasantly surprised because I'm not the biggest on like Arthurian retellings. I also love Tracy Deonn's writing. I so specifically remember reading the first chapter of just the prologue and remembering and thinking like the quality of her writing is so good, and that I knew I was in for a good time just in terms of quality of prose alone. I don't say this often, but I was pretty into the vibes of the possible love triangle, maybe poly, whatever thing we've got going on in here. And I was so genuinely shocked by the ending that I felt dumb. I was like, did other people see this coming? Because I didn't. This book is so special. I have a review for this. Oh my god, I forgot to shout out all the reviews that I have for books. Like I have them for the Jasmine Throne and a couple others. So I'll have them listed in the description if you're interested. This book is great. Shout out to Tracy Deonn. She really wrote the damn thing. I cannot wait for the next book. I'll definitely review this before then because it's not coming out till like the end of this year. Love it. We're almost done. My arm is sore. Isn't that sad? Book number 2 on this list. I have a repeat offer, and I'm so sad that 2 of my ultimate favorites were read in January. But like they were that good, but books 2 and 3 on this list I read in January. So if that doesn't tell you how my reading went, I don't know what does. But book number 2 on this list is so special, and I think a very niche fantasy story, but I loved it. And that's Realm of Ash by Tasha Suri. I also have a review for this. This book is amazing. I love Tasha Suri, if you couldn't tell. Her quality of writing is fantastic. If you aren't into epic fantasy, you should pick up her Books of Amba series. This is book 2 in the series. This is more fantasy romance, and just not as epic scale as the Jasmine Throne. So you could pick between the 2 depending on that. But Realm of Ash is fantastic. It's the perfect blend of a political and adventure story with romantic elements, like deep emphasis on romance, but it's not like everything about it. I love the themes explored in here. I absolutely loved how the other parts of the world are filled in from books 1 to book 2. Book 1 is very much more focused on like the magic and mythical elements, and this one we get a lot more of an idea of the political landscape, and then also has its own really cool dream magic. This romance is also so very sweet. You have a widow and like a disgraced illegitimate prince coming together, choosing to be together where they really shouldn't. I remember sobbing at the end of this. The payoff over the course of a companion series was fantastic. This series is phenomenal, and more people need to read from her. Please, I beg, read Tasha Suri. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Book number 1 on this list is actually 2 books, part of a series, read them both this year, and they were both would be like the top if the other one wasn't there. This should be no surprise to anyone because I have not shut up about this series for a very long time, and I luckily read the conclusion of it this year as well, and that's Jade Legacy by Fonda Lee. I don't know what I can say about this series that I haven't already said. I have reviews, I think, for both of them. These books are fantastic. This is one of the best trilogies I've ever read. The arcs over the course of the trilogy are so incredibly compelling and so incredibly well done. I can't get over it. I'll never get over it. The stakes are constantly being raised throughout the course of the series. This is book 2, this is 3. The scope of the story is consistently expanding. It's so expansive. From like book 1 to 3 is amazing. The sheer amount of time we spend with these characters and see them over the course of essentially lifetimes, or like multiple decades is so cool, because you get such a great sense of who these people are to their core and how they change, but like, oh god, it's just so great. It's one of the most ambitious series I've ever read, and it's paid off. It's satisfying in every way. The conclusion is beyond satisfying. I love this series to pieces. These characters, I love them so much. It's weird to say they feel like my friends, because they're really bad people, but I love them so much. I love the action, but super love or appreciate even more that as much as you'd think this would be a super action-packed series, it's really more focused on the political, and that's directly up my alley. So I love it. So those are the best books I've read in 2021. I'm so excited to be done this video, because that means I get to watch everyone else's, because I've been putting it off because I have been procrastinating. Let me know down in the comments below your favorite read of 2021, or few if you can. Can't just narrow it down, because trust me, I understand. I'm glad 2021 is done. I'm hoping 2022 is better in terms of reading and just in general. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye.